Welcome to week 10 of Teachings of the Living Prophets. Now this week we are going to go over two apostles that I know each of us have a great affiliation with, and that is Elder Hale and Elder Holland. And in both cases, these are brethren that I've had a chance to meet. In the case of Elder Holland, I definitely have an affinity for him because when I was at BYU, he was the president of BYU. And I remember as a new incoming junior transfer from BYU or from Rex College, getting to know him in a devotion the first week that I was there, and really loving him and his wife Pat. And so from that point, my admiration for Elder Holland certainly has continued to this day. I didn't know as much about Elder Hale and was grateful to be able to learn a little bit about him as I read and prepared for this coming week. Some of the things that really touched me with Elder Hale is his desire early on and his decision to really put the Lord first. I really think that this was something that I learned from, and something that I look back on my life, and even though I put the Lord, or I tried to put the Lord first, his very formal way of doing that and the level that he did that was really remarkable, and I think something that we can really look at in our own lives. We each are committed in the gospel to a certain extent, and certainly these brethren give us an example of how their whole heart and soul is committed to the gospel, not just a casual commitment or a commitment that is based upon what is easy, but truly a commitment that is there independent of whether or not following the Lord is convenient or not. I loved listening and reading about the teamwork that he had with his wife. And again, it gets back to understanding what a marital relationship should be like and what it can be like if two people are headed in the same direction and have the same desires. It's interesting that his wife took a lead in this, and it's important to understand that not only do men but women take the lead at times in relationships, and a woman shouldn't wait until a husband takes the lead when that is needed, but she has that opportunity to take the lead and to encourage the types of things that should be done. As I think about this pattern, I understand the importance of having a high degree, a complete degree of accepting the Savior in our lives and putting him number one or first. As I think back about in the Book of Mormon with the sons of the stripling warriors, the sons of Helaman, I am intrigued by a statement that it says in the Book of Alma that they obeyed with exactness. And certainly our pattern can be and should be a complete recognition that we are going to do the Lord's work first and not put other things ahead. Certainly Elder Hale in his life had every reason to maybe put this idea to be an elders quorum president behind him and away from him, because here he was at Harvard, very difficult circumstances. He could have easily justified that in this case I need to put the Lord second. But I was very intrigued by how his wife said, look, we can do both, and in doing so we will put the Lord first. And I was very touched by that. Another thing that really touched me with Elder Hale was the idea of going to the sacred grove with his father. And it helped me understand the importance that we have as parents to look for ways to have our own sacred grove experience with our children. To look for ways to, through example and through our testimony, be able to touch them. And here he has, as a result of it, this painting of the sacred grove. That's probably something that is one of his most dear keepsakes. We can have those experiences in our lives if we so choose. he had a remarkable amount of travel in his life, and throughout his life, wherever he was, being able to serve. And this reminds me that independent of my circumstances, whether I have a difficult job or a job that enables me to do service, in putting the Lord first, I will definitely be blessed. Now, as we move on to Elder Holland, I wanted just to again express my love for him and the fact that his example and his love for the students at BYU when I was there certainly was something that I felt deeply. And as a result, he's certainly been one of my favorite church leaders as I've listened to him. I love his passion, I love his education, and I love his ability to be profound. I think that's something that really deeply affects me. As I think about his education, here he goes and gets a degree at Yale University, and yet, his desire is to teach. And I had a reminder in my life as I looked at different things to do, and one of my blessings basically stated that I would have the gift to teach, and in teaching I would be following the footsteps of the Savior. And so as each of us have teaching opportunities in this church, understand that we are basically doing what the Savior did, and what a great opportunity and blessing it is to follow him. He comes from an inactive parent, and yet I read about the love that he had for his father and the way that he recognized and honored his father, rather than perhaps being critical of his father, is something that I think is very important for us. We might have siblings, we might have parents that disappoint us because of their lack of testimony and their lack of conviction, and yet reflecting that disappointment only hurts our relationship. And so in the case of Elder Holland, we can learn a lot about him. I also love the idea of this story of the wrong road that he talks about. If you haven't seen it, there's a Mormon message about the wrong road. And it's a tremendous opportunity for us to really reflect on how God oftentimes answers our prayers. In this case, if they would have gone down that road first and maybe been unfamiliar with certain areas, they would have been a little bit concerned whether they would have chosen the right road. But sometimes the Lord allows us to feel the closed doors around us in order to know for a surety that the opened door is the right one. What a great learning experience from this particular experience that Elder Holland had. Well, I hope you have a wonderful week as you read about these two brethren and as you learn from them. As always, I will look forward to hearing from you and to reading your comments and to gaining again a greater testimony for these brethren as well as others who are members of our Quorum of the 12 and First Presidency. Have a great week.